Hello, I think I might be a bit early. I just looked at my watch and I went by my watch, but actually my watch is a little bit fast. So apologies if I'm a couple of minutes early. And people don't tend to come in for about 15, 20 minutes anyway, if they're going to come in, because the notifications are so slow. So you're going to miss the beginning, but that's okay. It's flowers, you see, is the theme. It's Bloomsday in Ireland. And Bloomsday is actually a celebration of a literary character called Leopold Bloom, who's wandering around Dublin all day on in the book on the 16th of June. And I've gotten Bloomsday wrong before the day, the month even, and confused people. But I don't know how I did it. And it did seem old. But I do believe I have it right this year. Feel free to correct me if I haven't. But not everybody knows about Bloomsday, but it's an Irish thing. And it's lovely because people go around and they dress up like this. This lady would be from about the same period time. And she's one of my fairies, isn't she? And I'm waiting for the fairy stickers to arrive now, as well as the stickers for uh, this thinking of summer stuff I was doing, because I got the postcards, which I'm happy with. They're just blank postcards. And I got the bullet journal, which I'm really happy with because I love bullet journals. They're the ones that have the dots on the page. The only thing I'm not happy about is I can't use it yet. I have sort of a pact with myself that I can't use one bullet journal until I've finished the last one. So I might have a month or possibly even 2 months left in the previous bullet journal because they last quite a while. So I can't use it for a while. But anyway, so when I get the stickers, the first set of stickers are the Thinking of Summer ones. When they arrive, I'll show them to you. But I just wanted to show you those, the finished printed pieces for the lino cut project that I was doing. The fairy project, it's on. If you haven't seen it yet, I just uploaded a video for that, and it's on the uploads page, isn't it? So I have a download for you today if you're interested in doing this beautiful image with me. This is a photo from a user on Pexels called Lil Artsy, and Lil is actually a separate word from artsy. There's a space in between. I hadn't realized that till a minute ago. But it's a picture of roses, and my favorite roses are pink ones. And I've painted them a few times before, but this is the most finished piece that I have of that particular type of rose. And this was not done from photo. This was done. I can't remember where I had the roses, but I had those kind of roses at the time. And we're not quite doing it like that today, because this is an oil paint. And today we're doing drawing and then watercolor on the drawing. Okay. Um, and with roses, I think uh, the drawing of them is terribly important. And this is why people look up on the internet ways to draw roses, and they get somebody doing a kind of a swirl shape, a stylized swirl, and they learn to draw roses in a very stylized way and then always draw them the same way. I don't really blame them, because when you look at different varieties of roses and even the same variety, the structures in them can be quite complicated looking, and they do require a little bit of drawing skill, but they're also great fun to do. Now, this photo doesn't have like a super duper range of color. So this photo, which I have a download link for underneath if you want to get that photo and um, have a go at it yourself. Um, it's got not a great range of color, but I like it for the structure, and we want to concentrate today, I think, on the structure of drawing them. And then the color is going to be, it's not going to be an afterthought, but it's going to be simple, a simple approach with color, because drawing is very much the basis of painting. You'll hear people say that a lot, but if you can draw well, your drawing skill really helps you with painting. And I had roses in the garden at the moment, but I didn't want to do this color roses because um in case you have trouble color matching that color, I could color match it because I have all kinds of inks and things that I bought recently that are pretty good. But I bought those inks, I think, with I actually have to use two mixed, I think. I bought them with those roses in mind. I think it was the last time I was painting those roses. So the pink ones are easier to color match, I think, because you're probably going to have colors in whatever kind of set you have, that will match them. And just to talk about drawing skills and everything, there's different ways to approach them. This is a done in Sumi A style, which is a Chinese and Japanese style, and it's kind of a loose fluid style, and it uses India ink in different strengths. And I'm a bit sorry that it's not a Monday, next Monday, because next Monday I am getting some brown India ink, and I would have loved to do this exercise today using the brown India ink and then color over it with watercolor, just a wash, because um, India ink is wonderful for uh, pen and wash technique, but I don't have the ink yet. So we're not doing that. um, and if you're really into getting into roses, I was asking another guy who's on YouTube, would he mind me giving him a shout out, because he kind of inspired me to do today's topic. And I think how I found this guy on YouTube was that I had been doing botanical style painting anyway. Uh, for my towards my last video, I'd had a few short videos out about sort of botanical style painting, and he came up on my recommendations. And I'm so glad he did, because he was painting roses and he is an expert. And his name is Paul Foxton. And if you just look up his name, you'll find his channel. And I've only seen two of his videos, but he was painting pink roses in them, and I got the goo on me to paint roses after that. So go and check out his channel, if you want to get really, really into painting roses, because he knows his stuff, and he also has really, really good tools you can use for analyzing color and everything, and is very into color. So he's very good at structure of them and very good at color. I don't know if roses are kind of one of his specialties or what. He does do a lot of roses, I've noticed. I was looking at his website, and he does very good still lives, generally speaking, extremely nice. Still lives, very atmospheric, but very technically very excellent as well. So check him out. That guy's called Paul Foxton. So okay, so let's go. So I'm going to put my painting away, and we can do an oil painting another time if you like. But that is a different technique, because this one I put the black oil paint down first, and then I came along and I painted over the black. Once I think it had dried, if I remember correctly, and I sort of dragged paint over it to let the black paint underneath do some work. And you could achieve that with oils or gouache. Um, and obviously watercolor is going to be a different approach, isn't it? So the paper I'm using today is this stuff. This is the aquarelle stuff that I really like. And normally I'd get my little very skinny pencil out, but I'm not going to go too thin today or spend very long with thin pencil. I can't actually find it, so that solves that problem. Because I've noticed you can't see it very well on this screen when I use my little technical pencils. I like using them. And obviously with watercolor, unless you intend to have the pencil marks part of the painting, which is perfectly fine and can look very good actually. Um, Unless you want to incorporate them into the painting, um, you might not want them to show. So watercolor isn't kind of my main medium really that I work in. There's some fantastic watercolor artists out there, and particularly I'm mad into botanical artists at the moment. Um, I've been looking at people who design wallpaper and this chinoiserie style wallpaper. There's some amazing, they're very stylized, but some amazing designs in those, and the level of skill in drawing flowers and all the foliage in them are quite amazing. So how would we approach this? This is a cropped version of the image, but I have the full image up on my computer. So I'm going to have a little look at that. And as I say, there isn't a huge amount of color information in this, but I don't mind because I like the structure of it so much that I feel that within an hour, that's really enough. If we get the hang of that, that's really, we'll have achieved a lot. So I'm going to just start off drawing in pencil just to put main shapes down, but I'm then going to switch to a watercolor pencil and sketch with the watercolor pencil because that can actually aid me in getting the colors. Now, this is actually bigger than a rose would be, so I'm not going by the scale of this. This is just to show you on the screen. Uh, I am looking at my picture on my laptop. And with 4 roses here. So there's an awful lot of information in this. Now you could choose to have she has Lil Artsy, the person who took the photo, has quite a lot of space on this side of the painting, and fair bit on the right as well. You could choose to have it, give it that much space if you want. It's up to you what way you decide to do the composition. You could focus on just one flower if you wanted to do that. I'm just gonna have a nice, cause I had such a busy week doing those stickers. I think I've been doing them for maybe 2 or 3 weeks now because there was a whole 3-in-1 project to do with the lino cuts that ended up as stickers. Um, I want to just stay nice and loose because I'm coming off a very sort of, I won't say heavy work patch because like how hard do you kind of work when you draw, or paint? It's not like you're digging a ditch and you come home exhausted every day. It is tiring in one way. So what I'm doing is keeping loose shapes, and if you have a look at the shapes of the brightest parts of the leaves, I'm making kind of teardroppy shapes of them. A lot of them do have this teardroppy shape, but I'm generalizing. So there's a teardrop shape, this one, but it's got a flat bit across it. And then this one. Then you've got darker areas in here of lovely warm color coming around, but you keep following the circle around because the flower is a circle, isn't it? And it just has some bits catching the light and other bits not catching the light. I'm not going to be too exact about this, but at the same time, I do care about the drawing. I'm just not going to do it really, really slowly. I'm going to do it fairly fast. And get the main ideas about each flower. And the main idea for this flower is that wonderful center there with the little lip and this thing, I feel. And then it's dark here. Now I am adding a little bit of shading. I don't mind in my picture if that shading turns up. And don't worry, you're going to be stuck with me doing pencil all the way through because I'm going to switch in a minute. I'm putting in the rough work in this pencil, and then I'm moving on to a brown pencil. And there are some loose petals around the edge. So what works for this particular, whatever variety of rose it is, won't necessarily work for every rose, but you know that every rose is going to start with that roundy shape, and it might start with an ellipse shape if it's on its edge. For example, this rose over here, although it's round, the center of it is elliptical, isn't it, when you look at it? So we're generalizing about that kind of shape there. And you get better at doing this the more you draw, obviously. Anybody who's watching this who draws a lot knows that. So I'm coming around here, and you get this little series of shapes. I've just simplified the shapes a bit um, as I'm going around. And okay, when you look at that, remember what I've said before, that don't panic if it doesn't look like the thing instantly. Don't get hung up on trying to get it to look like a rose at the moment. It's a shape, okay? It's as you move from the general to the specific that the shape gets more like that rose, that particular rose. Yeah, so on Bloomsday, people dress up in sort of costume from sort of 1900s, and ladies get their big hats on, and guys get their best little boaters or whatever they'd have on with their little old-fashioned suits and their watches and fob chains and all that. And they go out for walks. They like to promenade around Dublin, and everybody else gets to enjoy the day because they get to see people all dressed up, looking lovely, going around. And there are all kinds of readings from the books and everything. It's really celebrating one book. Sometimes you get readings that are readings from different Joycean books, but it's to celebrate the book Ulysses. Leopold Bloom was the character in Ulysses. So you see the way even the center of that one and that one, they're quite different. There's the center of the other one, it's a square shape. And the center of this one, a lot more curved. So this is why, you could get a style for, you could look up videos and it go, always paint roses this way, or how to paint roses. And it gives you kind of formulaic way to go about it. That's great and everything, and you might get a kick out of it. But if you get stuck always doing a rose that way, you're doing yourself out of the fun of, you know, seeing something accurately, recording something, or recording your response, your unique response to that thing in that moment. That's why I always like to have the thing in front of me if I can. But my white roses won't be out for a while. They've bloomed at different times a year. They're a very pale pink, not exactly the variety I like, but they're not bad. And I've seen them bloom around Christmas time as well as late summer. And then some years they don't do well at all. I have a beautiful purple rose planted that has been not coming along well, but I transplanted it this year, and I'm hoping for better things out of it. I think it's called Rose de Mille or something like that. Um, I don't like flashy looking roses very much. Normally, I like very dainty. I'd love to have, um, like a rose garden with just pink roses in it and just very, very pale pink roses. And my favorites are kind of very scented ones. And but this purple one I'll make an exception for it because it's so beautiful. Okay, so I have the rough shapes, and they're also green bits up here. And sometimes photography does you a bit of a favor because it has, whatever way it has split the colors up into very, very different greens. One a very bluey green, and the other one a dark. So it's kind of emphasized something. So we're ready to come along with different color now. And then there are large areas of kind of blurriness going on. And I like something that's happening down here is yellow bits, and it might be sunshine poking through something, but I'm going to make that like a sunny bit. And I have another secret weapon here, if I can find it. Hang on. Let's have another piece of paper here for testing things out on. It might be a bit too yellow. These are oh oohoo markers, and they're watercolor markers. That's a better color, I think. And if you have a look at these were cheap. This is one of the things I liked about them. See, they go watercolory. And then the other end, you can do a thin line. You can't see it in that color very well, but you can do a very thin line with it. So I have those that I use them a bit as well if I wanted to. I use them in the fairy thing. They were very handy for getting very fine detailed bits or turning very fine corners. And you know, so say for the roses, you've got an inner part of a fold, and you can do things like shading in them as well. So use them like an ordinary marker, or spread the color a little bit. So they're nice. The other thing I have that might be useful is these. I used to be very keen on these watercolor pencils. These are beautiful. These are just like nice additions to watercolor. If, like me, watercolor isn't your forte, these drawing type tools probably would really appeal to you. And I used to use these for life drawing a lot, actually. Just very handy and very portable and everything as well. And I liked the way that if you don't mess the water around too much, that you can keep some of the lines in them. That's very nice, because you might have a very nice drawing and you want to keep the lines in. So I have a few colors in those. So I'm going to come along with my brown pencil, and that's mainly just because I'm not confident that you can see the drawing really well. I can see it okay here, so you should actually be able to see it, because I went in with a much softer pencil than I normally would, so it's a wider line, especially for you, dear viewer. Especially for you. I'm looking for my brown. No, that's ivory black. Unfortunately, my brown pencil looks very like the black one in this. Burnt carmine. That's kind of a reddy. I'll have a brown and a reddy brown. They look the same when you do that, but when you get your brush to them, this is acting like a warm-up for me, you see. See how pink that is? I like that one, actually. It's very strong. You see, I might want that pink. But you do have other weapons in your arsenal when you're doing watercolor. Things like cotton buds. Very handy for wiping back. And when you're using the pinks, if you have a look at this printout, the pinks came out a little bit warmer than in the actual photo. But that's a very cool pink to be doing that in, unless you're going to warm it up with a wash or something else. So I still want the brown. That pink is not bad, but I still want the brown. Is that it? Yeah. Chocolate. That's what I want to do my sketch in. So that's that chocolate color in the Derwent watercolors, kind of neutral color. And I just want to find my craft knife, because I want to give that a little bit of repair. And I had it out for something earlier and lost it again. I have loads of these things around the place, but I lose them at a terrific rate. I have 3 or 4 of them. Here it is. Yeah, so I'm taking it really easy after doing those stickers. There was a lot of work in them. I loved doing it, really enjoyed it. But like there was loads of work before I even got to the sticker stage. So after everything that feels like a kind of a project, I kind of ease back a little bit and just do really relaxing things or something completely different. I'm waiting for the weather to be nice to go to the beach again. And I'm finishing a thriller so that I can read, have a new book arriving, which is a very old book. I think it's 130 years old. It's a new old book. And it's a bit along the style of, I got it. But this is 1920s. The other one is 1893 or something like that. I love the title of this one. But you know, it has great illustrations inside, you see. And the other book has lovely illustrations inside. I'm getting really into illustration at the moment. And if I get enthusiasms like that, I always just follow the enthusiasms. Follow your enthusiasms where they lead you. I think it's good. Okay, so I want to do some outlining, and I'll start with kind of darkest point, okay? And I don't mind getting a bit of shading involved here. So this is before I ever get the watercolors out. I'm putting in some structure, building a little bit of structure. Now, some of the pinks are, yeah, some of the pinks are pinky pink. So I don't want to. So you see the way we've got a few different kinds of pinks. We've got a very cool pink, a warmer pink. You'll find yourself asking about how warm or cool is the area. But as I was saying, there's a huge amount of variety in this photo. So we're going to make this this picture really about the drawing and practicing drawing of flowers. And so some of the thing is to try and keep it loose, but something that I noticed from the botanical style chinoiserie wallpapers that I was looking at was that there's a kind of a rhythm to plants, right? And there are rhythms to these roses. And there's all this wonderful curvy against sharp is really what the rhythm of these are. And there's, you know, there is that inward swirl, but I don't want to stylize it so much that I just end up doing a swirl shape the way, you know, sometimes people stylize things. That is the direction that they go. Okay, so we're just putting in a little bit of the info, and then we're going to come in and get some color, because it's not like super dark when you look at this in relation to the background. I'm gonna not put in those little bits there. I mean, I could, but I hadn't realized that's actually the head of one. Look, with lovely little fringy bits. I want to put those fringy bits in. I think it adds interest. I like the idea of the background having some interest in it as well. So, quite early on, in other words, I'm getting involved with what's going on in the background. And sometimes people don't, sometimes they kind of, background becomes this afterthought, and I do feel that might be a bit of a mistake. Really, ideally, if one could get as interested as in every single part of the picture as every other part and find the background as interesting as the roses, that would be ideal, because you'll end up with a picture that's interesting to the viewer as well. You have to be interested in, and the, you know, people are they have delicate senses because they can pick up whether you were very interested in the subject or not, or whether you were just having a lash at it, or whether you were just adopting a kind of a style of doing something and being a bit slick about it. That was one of the things when people complained about Sargent, singer Sargent, who we've talked about a lot on the channel. That was one of the complaints that people commonly had about. Now we're getting a very big brush because I want to keep the watercolor a bit loose. And I love this bit because you're activating that, aren't you? So it's very warm, but we can modify that later. Yeah, the one of the criticisms of him was that he was a bit slick, you know, showy. What's the word they use? He specialized in portraits they call swagger portraits. And the whole idea of swagger portraits was, it implies um, the idea that you went woo and, did big brush strokes and just did this work of earth shattering genius proportions in just a stroke, that you were that amazing. But people used to say that it was his style could be a bit shallow. I should have had a lot more space there. Don't know why I don't. I'm gonna lie a bit, but I will bring it down very slightly to give it that little bit of space there. Try and lose the line a bit. So I want that in betweeny space to be about greenery and everything. So I'm actually going to get in there now before I even start on the roses and flood a little bit of green in there. And then you see with that brown, you can do some work in here, pick up bits of it and bring it elsewhere on your brush. I mean, I would not presume to tell you how to do watercolor because there's a good chance you're better at it than me because I'm not great at it. But I did find a way to do it for my fairies that worked for me very well because I did it like um, drawings. And if you look at the actual fairies, right? I'll show you the photocopy again. Um, all that detail on the face, it's actually kind of semi-drawn. All the shadows and everything are kind of drawn with the brush. So this is why I'm always saying the drawing is like the basis of painting. It's very important. Sorry, I'm shaking the camera for doing that. It is very important because the drawing sort of underlies the painting. Now I'm going to get my green. And these pencils, right, they're lovely when you draw back into wet. It softens up the pencil a little bit, but you can get a very nice, really hard edge on things. Unfortunately, I don't have exactly the right color I want, but no, I can layer slightly. Okay, so, and I can get off the hook because I did say this is not going to be totally about color, so I can get off the hook for matching colors. Now, you will be relieved to know that I cleaned my watercolor palette. I realized I was making a video for the fairies thing, and halfway through trying to make the fairies, I realized the palette was so filthy I couldn't even pick up paint from it because I had been using gouache in with the white gouache in with my watercolors, and the gouache was kind of infecting all the different colors. And it had when it dried, I couldn't even get down to the colors, so I had to clean the whole palette. And I have a little short video there about how I clean the palette. If anybody's unsure how you go about cleaning a very, very dry and very dirty watercolor palette, but it's not hard. Basically, if you have any sort of small knife or palette knife, that's kind of the color I want. You can scrape anything around the edges, scrape any sort of very top bits, but I don't like waste, So I didn't want to scrape back too much. So I got cotton buds, and after spritzing the top of this, wiped in with the cotton buds, then did a little bit of a tiny bit of a scrape. He got the tweezers in and lifted any stray hairs up. I had both head hair. I shed like mad. And I also had cotton bud hairs on it. And then bits of dirt where I brought it out. It is a little field watercolor kit. And I brought it out to the field I don't know how many times. And it had been cleaned very few times. Well, that's the red one, brown. Okay. So I'm just using a combo of things here. I mean, I could have used the yellow ochre in my watercolor set there, but I'm definitely going to use the sienna. And I could have even gone a little bit more red if I'd wanted to. Now I'll leave that alone because I don't know how ready that'll look in relation to the roses. But while I have some green out, I'm going to just put a very light layer of green here because I'm aware that this needs drying time and then I'm doing a live stream. So I don't whether it'll get enough drying time is the question. Now that's an interesting colour. How will I get that colour? Sort of a viridian, but there's a blue in there as well. And I do have these in tubes as well. And I like to try it out in paper as well before after mixing it on the palette because it looks different. Mixed there and there, it looks different because you get the white paper and the type of paper affects it as well. Okay, so there can be darker bits happening here, but I do actually have black in the pencils as well, and I am very fond of using black. I have to say, I like it better than watercolor black sometimes. Where did I put it though? Ivory black. A lot of white still left in that, but there might be some reds or pinks going in there. It's gas, isn't it? Half an hour in, I haven't gone near the actual roses yet. But it's good that I got interested in the background. See, and that, if you're wondering what this thing is, that's cross hatching, isn't it? Where you go different directions with the pencil. I like cross hatching because it's not a trick I overuse. I don't think. I hope not. But it's energetic. It does have a lovely energy to it. Now, petals. Very nice edge on that rose there. And I'm loving that greeny. Might throw a little bit of brown in there, a little bit of burnt sienna in with this, give it a lovely, more mossy kind of a more sap greenish. And some of this is me trying to get rid of that white of the paper. I particularly like this paper because you don't get that cauliflower effect that easily on it. Watch now, that'll happen just because I mentioned it. But um, some papers are desperate for the cauliflower effect, and it can, you get everything bunching up, and it can look nice sometimes and terrible in the middle of something where you don't want it. Now I want to get this shape sorted a bit because it's very dark here. So I think if you get the dark bits happening, man, that your rose starts coming to life because the white bits then project forward. So this is a drawing exercise because we're trying to get around a curve really here. But within the curve, this is a bit like painting drapery or drawing drapery. Within the curve, there are angles as well. So there's going to be a soft curve and there's going to be a sharp bit as well. And that is, I think, specific to any rose, really. I think. I can't think of any time I've not seen that in a rose, really. There are always exceptions to rules and things, so I don't want to just say it'll always be like that. It's just part of the structure. Okay, so let's go in there. So far, I haven't had to change to a smaller brush, but I might at some stage, but for the moment, this is doing it fine. And it's cooler than I want, but I can lift some of that if I want, because I don't have exactly the right colors in the pencils, but I did want to use the pencils just for convenience sake. And you can do things like this, you see. So I'm modifying the color a little bit with another thing. And then I'll show you the lift. The lift. You have to be a bit careful with the lift because it doesn't always work that cleanly. So, dipping this in water. You could do this with tissue, but the cotton buds are nice because they have a. So we're just taking the color back a bit, you see. Okay, so now we can soften up the edge of that slightly there. And I'm leaving the hard edge there though. And I'm gonna use that little bit of pink. It's a tiny bit of pink like that. I think that's an alizarin crimson that I have in my set. But it needed to be warmed up with a warmer color. And in fact, I think I have a pencil that might be. Didn't I show you a pencil earlier? It might be a nice pencil. Where did I put it? I don't know. Oh, look, here's a pink I didn't know I had. That might be a bit too pink. It's too cold a pink. There's the pencil. There's the pencil there, look. Oh, yes, that's nice. See, when you have exactly the right color to do something with, I'm in there in the thing. So I'm happier now with that. And they have this wonderful glowiness to them in those mid-tone sort of areas because the petals are so thin, aren't they? They're just kind of receivers of light and the light shines through them as well. So they're so beautiful. Sorry, I enthuse a lot. Shouldn't apologize for enthusing, should I? I know I'm hopping around a lot, but I'm just sort of at this stage, see, I'm sort of grabbing anything. And that's a bit too cold. But it does have the glow. It does add a little bit of glow there. And I'm trying to find where this upper edge is here. So for me, it's about getting sharpness against the soft, warm color. There's also cool color. There's a bluey, grey color going on as well. But we're kind of leaving the white of the paper for that for the moment anyway. And when that dries, I might come along and do something else. But down here, there are areas where we go ahead and put it in now, you know. Because we might actually need to get the thing working anyway. That's a bit too daring, I think. See, I have to be careful I don't have too many different colors going on. I just want the tiniest hint. There. Okay, so it looks a bit funny because I don't have enough of the detail. And I'm looking for more cotton buds here. I could have used that sort of cloth. I suppose I'm being a bit wasteful, but I've had this packet of cotton buds for years, and I never seem to have any other use for them. So I just happened to take them out one day, and now I'm using them for everything. Okay, so I get the brown out again. It's that little bit dark, maybe, I don't know. I don't want the dark to overwhelm everything else too much. Oh, that's the wrong flipping colour. See, my brown pencil looks exactly like that carmine colour. And the carmine is a very cold red, so it's not actually the right colour. We'll have to warm that up. I'll put a little bit of ochre in on top of it. And, again, I'm just using that slight lift technique to get some of the colour back off. Now, there's a bit of blue here, so I'm keeping it really light. I don't actually have a black out at all. Blue. And I find it purple brown chocolate. Is that it? Yeah, chocolate. Okay. I'm lying about where exactly the edge is because I had brought the green up to here, so I'm going to go with that. And so there were some bluey shades over here. Well, grey really, but I'm using blue. Tiny bit of green and that just to sort of cancel out the purple. So, like, even within a grey, you can get a range of other tones going. And it gets really nice over here because you've got blues, but you've got pinks as well. And I wonder, can I get any of that colour out just to get a little pink established there? Might be able to. Alrighty. Now, if I can get away with this, if I can find my, where's the rubber? Hopefully I don't have anything wet happening here. I want to lift that up. There's too much going on there. Let's lift that slightly. Okay. Now it does have a weird edge. I'll just grab another brush for this weird edge. And just warming up a few little bits and bobs. And what the pens are nice for is some of the colors are very intense colors in them. So like that pink is really intense. So for the middle bits, they are kind of handy, I have to say. You know, you can do kind of more subtle things. And this is why I was tired after doing a few fairs, because you think watercolor is going to be always very fluid and easy and everything, and sometimes you're concentrating like mad. Now, what I got happening wrong here, I would have liked a lip of something white there. So if this doesn't rub out, I'll show you what I can do. I want to have one of the petals here, the edge of one of the petals coming down here. And I've already put color down, so this mightn't work. But I have choices. If that bit there won't rub out with just water on a brush, and it actually has, I could come along with either acrylic, this is an acrylic pen, or I could come along with your white in your watercolor isn't really going to do it because it's not quite strong enough, I find. But Turner used to do this, the great watercolorist, among other things. Get some gouache and go over that in the color you want with gouache. And that'll work quite well. And I'll just show you. So you can do some corrections, you know. See? And gouache is nicer than acrylic actually because it's not quite as opaque. So you still got the watercolor quality. So the reason I was doing that was because if you look at this here, you had where I was on this one and it was this petal here. I wanted it to wrap slightly over this petal here. So this petal I had fine, but this one wasn't coming out far enough, and I just wanted it to come out a bit further. And those are the things that contribute to not just the structure, but the rhythm of your particular type of rose. So I'm kind of emphasizing that a little bit here. Be lucky to get this done in the hour, wouldn't I? I never do, though. I always say, oh, and if I'm not finished, I'll post it on the community tab. And 9 times out of 10, I don't get the thing finished. But I do give an indication of how I'm proceeding about things. So there's that in my defense, isn't there? Can we use that as part of my defense? I think. So for this very transparency bit here, we haven't really covered how I plan to go about that. So this bit here, the very pale color, and it's just got like a wash of warm pink. That's basically it. I'm doing a warming up a pink, but watering it down so much that it's even slightly cooler than that. It's just a little wash, you see. And then some bits I would leave white. Like some of those bits are very, you could decide, okay, I'm leaving them completely white. Or you can, just have them almost white. But like for sort of edges like that, I would decide to leave them white, I think. And I'm just going around some of the blues in here to um help with the structure, using the color to help me get the structure. Because if you look at that blue, and I'll just put a little bit more where there is some here, that blue is button up against quite a warm pink. So we'll get some of our warm pink going again. Yeah, that's an okay color. And I'm bringing it up, not kind of all the way, over here it is all the way up to the blue, but then it isn't. That actually could have, if I was being exact, it could have come up higher. If it was oil paint, I would, probably change that, but I'm not going to. But I could get my gouache out and re-establish a new line there, or do the wiping back thing with just water on the brush, because I've only just put it on. It's not completely dry, you see. So you see this effect here, that's the kind of cauliflower effect I'm talking about. It's not, it doesn't look bad there, I'm leaving it. But sometimes it can look bad, and you can reanimate your watercolor, can't you? And recover it, you see, and get rid of any little edges you want to. So I have managed to get a little bit of an edge back there. And that edge, I only got it back because to show how to do it, really. And again, using the pencil, like, you make it sort of watercolor and a drawing at the same time. Use the handiness of a drawing. Okay, so what I will do, because I've only 3 minutes left, is obviously I'm not going to get it finished in the time, but I will keep working on it. And I'll post it up on the community tab later. And if you haven't seen the latest upload, I think you'll enjoy that. There's a little bit of music on it. It's a very short piece, but there's a little bit of music on it. And there's some watercolor as well. So you get to see more watercolor over there. And like, it's fun. It can be, watercolor can be nerve-wracking as well, Um, if you get too attached to the idea of having the thing turn out perfectly, you know. But really, I think if you're painting, it's really only what you're doing this moment, isn't it? So if you take care of what's happening right in this moment, don't worry about results. The results might be nice and they might not be nice, you see. So it's not, let go of it in the first place and just say, well, I want it to be a really enjoyable process. And it is, when you get immersed in something, it is. And one of the reasons I picked this the picture is I love imperfections and things, and I love about this picture these bits, um, these little sort of wilting bits of flower. Because roses are so beautiful, and we're so used to seeing perfect ones painted. How nice it is to see a photo of ones that are just about to wilt. There's a kind of a little story in that. Um, that's nice. So it's a bit different, and I like it for that. And it makes it a little bit less predictable as kind of a pretty picture of pretty roses as well when you're doing that. Now the pink down here is that little bit cooler because it's a bluey pink, you see. So we actually did end up getting a lot more colour in it than I thought, because sometimes you see colours emerge that you didn't really notice at first, you know. Uh, and in fact, I want to get slightly different blues and things as well. Where did I put my... I have another sort of blue I want. And I have to leave you in a moment, but I wanted... Whoops, sorry, I just hit you with my glasses. There, that's the blue I want. I have to get this blue out again. This is a cerulean, which is like a pale sky blue. I use a lot of cerulean. I love it. And you know what I love about these watercolors? I just realized it kind of lately because I hadn't used them for a while, and then I went back to them. Um, the honey sort of quality in them. You know, I don't know that all watercolors have it, but some watercolors are made with a lot of honey in them, and it gives them a kind of a little pull, slightly not. I don't want to say greasy because it makes it sound unpleasant, but a little pull on the paper, and just as part of the painting process and the feel of it, I love that. So you see the way I'm trying to work on very delicate little transitions there in color, because there's blues and pinks as well. It's not really working that well for me, to be honest. I'm trying to warm that up a bit, and I really should have done it with a watercolor mix because that pen is a bit ignorant for it. I just want to get around that curve, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so all these little weird, these are so enjoyable to do, these little folds. If you treat them like they're like a really interesting little bit of drapery of some sort. And don't be surprised if you see things happening you weren't expecting with shapes and everything. Um, that has to do with you're seeing it well now. You see, if that kind of thing happens, if you go, I wasn't expecting it to do that, or why is it doing that curve? That's actually a good sign. That's not a... People get nervous at that stage sometimes if they haven't drawn something before. They go, no, a rose is not supposed to look like that. And you see, supposing can get in the way of things, can get in the way of the way things really are. I'm just doing, because I don't like really empty backgrounds, I'm doing a kind of a suggestion of that. I've gone almost 5 minutes over. But like I'm getting enough of it done, I think, to be sort of showing you at least what my plan was for finishing. So the odd bits in there, I will probably next I'll go in and rub some of that out because I have enough of the structure there to keep going. And then I'll keep, you see, I'll keep building this structure here off those shapes that I put in before, and then they'll be getting a little bit more specific. And then when they're all kind of tucked neatly in to their corners, there is a logic to the way they tuck into each other as well, you see, and you'll start noticing that as you do it. You'll get lost in doing this. Such an interesting subject to do. And great drawing exercise as well. That's why I did want to approach it as a drawing thing. So I'll finish that off today because I'm not going to do like a super realistic thing. I'm going to do something that's kind of going to stay that light and airy. There's going to be a lot of white page left, I think. I'm not going to eliminate the white completely, but it's going to, have that structure of the rose. But it's going to be like a colored drawing of the rose. And that's why you can see I wanted my ink. But I will be getting my ink on Monday. So the plan is then, I'm thinking the next upload I'll have probably is a short. I'll upload a little short to test out the ink when I get it. It's due to arrive next Monday. So it's India ink, but it's um, brown India ink. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to do pen and wash drawing of trees. So I'll do a little shorts video on that to test the ink because I've never used brown ink before in India ink. So that'll be fun. Okay, so look out for that early next week and maybe go over and have a little look at the little fairies and fuchsia video. It's only about 3.5 minutes long and a bit of music on it over on the uploads tab. And the download link for that lovely little artsy photo is down below the video. So thanks for joining me, and go to the community tab later if you want to see how this turns out.